before I forget, I want to do this. So, for people that were here when Councilor Rinpoche gave the Jnana initiation for Paulin Lama, we have cards with the full mantra on it. So I just get, I mean, this is so funny, like, you know, and he goes, well, just look it up on Google. So, they got, you know, just, I love that, frankly, but don't look it up on Google, okay? Just take the card and later, maybe next month, you know, give some teachings on Paulin Lama and Mahakala. Just really quickly, for me, like Mahakala is always like working with fear. It's Mahakala is like the fear side of compassion or Avalokiteshvara. Sometimes we're afraid to be compassionate, open our heart. But Mahakala is fully open, just like Chenrezig. Paulin Lama deals with betrayal, big one. So we'll work on that. And fierce beings help us. So thank you. That's lovely. I want to be able to see, you know, one took care. Okay, that's it. So afterwards, I'll just hand out the cards to people that want them. Okay. Yay. I'll keep it. Okay. Thank you. It's yours, Kim.
Okay, is this thing working? Okay. So I know some of you, and I've probably told some of these stories to some of you in the past. So you have a pretty good idea of where I'm coming from. But this is a more complete version of how I ended up here, essentially. I'd like to, first of all, dedicate the opening of this to my mother, who would be 95 today if she were still alive. And she's the first person that taught me about compassion, and she's the first person that introduced me to art. And so they both played mightily into me ending up here and giving this lecture. So first story I want to tell is about my first memory about making art. I was 4.5 years old, and my mother had took me into the kitchen, and on the kitchen table, there were papers spread out and paint and stuff. And she was showing me how to finger paint when I was 4.5. And I remember it's my first memory of making art. And it was so exciting. I remember this to this very day, what it felt like to do it. Because with finger painting, it's supposedly relegated to kids that don't have a lot of control, you know, so they can't draw things that look like things. And so you give them something where they just smash the paint around. But I thought, wow, this is the best ever. You could really like make things happen on that paper, and you use your whole body, which was awesome. And so that was my first experience with, in fact, my workplaces. I don't know if I'm on, am I on Zoom? Of course. Okay. One moment. So what do you suggest? Technical difficulty. So while he's doing that, so a couple of years ago, I was looking through some of my mother's stuff, and she always had a box under the bed in their bedroom, and she kept all the art projects in there. And so I was looking through this box, and it's like, oh, wow, there was the first finger painting I ever did was in the box. And so I had to look at that along with everything else. And on top of that painting being in there, my father, he eventually got his master's degree in education, and he did a project on my art between the ages of 4.5 and 8, which I had no idea about, and it was in that too. I was a specimen. Yeah. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Okay. My green button isn't up there, so. Oh, well. Okay, so here we go. So there I am at 4.5. At that time, my mom was a mom, and my dad was going to a Bible college to become a Methodist minister. And so my whole experience was that. And my dad also, we also lived on the grounds of properties where my dad was building churches. So I was the PK, the preacher's kid for sure, but I was very young. And my mother used to say, where have you been, Kim? Well, you've been gone for a while. And I'd go, I was taking a walk with God. So God was not a fearful thing for me. It was like my friend that I took walks with. And then shortly after that, within 2 years after that, my dad came to the family and said, I don't believe anything that I'm teaching these people, so I'm quitting. And so he stopped being a minister and was an atheist. And so that was a paradigm that I was living with for a couple of years, and then it was gone. And not only was it gone, but all my friends in the church community, we were shunned by them. So it was just like, F you, When I was a little kid, it's like, okay, I have an extremely large streak of skepticism now about organized religion. But I still had the desire to go take a walk with the infinite, So those two things, making the art and losing my religion, essentially, left me open for answering the call to adventure and going out and trying all kinds of things. I knew there was something out there for me. Here's the painting. And my mother wrote the name on it. It's Bear Going Over the Mountain. And so not only had I discovered the joys of making art, but I also was expressing my desire to go see what was on the other side of the mountain that I didn't know about. So I think that was like the beginning of my personality or something right there. So after that time, I started experimenting with a lot of different things. I was really interested in looking at ancient cultures. I continued to make art. This is like, I made my school have a Mesopotamian mural when I was going to school in Sacramento. This is all in Sacramento so far. So at one point, not that long ago, like 3 weeks ago, Lama had a talk about what is the first thing you remember, like age 5-ish, as your inspiration towards heroism, your better self. And he mentioned Mighty Mouse. We're like the same age. So it's like, yeah, Mighty Mouse was an important one for me. And I think maybe the Sorcerer's Apprentice was really attractive to me too. It's like, oh, like learning all this magic, So those I never quite gave up on any of that. So starting at probably age 18 or so, I started playing around with personal identity. And so I was searching external information, but I was also playing around with transforming my own identity and investigating different role models for women, especially, and trying to find women of power to emulate and learn from. And so I dressed up a lot. I dressed up when I went to school. I dressed up when I went to art openings. And I got a lot of attention from it for sure. And at the same time, I became a muse for quite a few photographers in town. So I have a bunch of documents from that period of time. That first one was the artist. This one is the courtesan. So it's like I'm looking at all these different vanity. One of my first topics I picked out for investigation was vanity, because I was doing this big series of self-portraits for years. And I wanted to keep in check, on that whole notion of one of the 7 deadly sins. So I also had a lot of friends that like to participate in this sort of thing. So this was in Mexico. I set up a studio in Mexico with my friend Stephanie Skaliski, who's still an artist in town here. And we acted out while we were there. Had lots of fun. So I'm actually have like a real combination of being an introvert and an extrovert. So a lot of times I really would like cover myself up so you can really tell who it was. But because I was the only one in the room doing that constantly, everybody knew who it was, So I couldn't really cover it up that well, but just to make myself feel more secure or something, I'd cover it up. This is all mostly in the 80s. I'm not going to show you really any of them, but at this time, I was also making a lot of mostly sculpture. And I did a whole series of masks, 3-dimensional sculptures. I made a series of dolls, and that was based on going back to childhood. And at one point when I had to give up dolls, I was really pissed off about it, but it's like big girls don't play with dolls. I don't know how old I was, probably 8 or 10 or something. And so I reluctantly put them away, but later as an adult, they came back and they were a little more mature dolls at that point. But this art show, the first art show I had of dolls, I took a shoe box into the gallery and I opened the lid and I go, is this enough for a show? And so it was enough for a show, but because they're so tiny pieces. Then I went from sculpture back into painting and started working on like expressing emotions in my work. What I was really doing was being a witness to my own experience and then a witness to what I could understand that was going on around me, and tried to discuss that in my work through the visual language, and have relied on that a lot. I find that visual language actually reaches people that don't speak English. And I've had lots of great interactions with people that don't speak English through the language of the visual. So around this time, I had started college. And so that was a hotbed of experimentation for sure. And I explored identity. I used a lot of performative dress up, did self-portraits, had performances in gallery spaces, costume events, including exploring ideas of before all the craze in vampire fiction and all that stuff. I was looking at Bram Stoker, Christian saints, Catholic stuff, mostly art oracles, muses, courtesans, which is sort of the equivalent of a Renaissance man in a sense. It was a woman that had permission to explore all the arts and be amusing at parties, I think was part of it. Most of my art shows I got by meeting people at parties, I think, really. That last one was called Grief. This one is pre-Buddhism, but I was starting to doing a lot of experimentation with out-of-body experiences and astral projection, which I had to be doing something with my mind to get to that point. And also, I met somebody who was a world traveler who had been to India many, many times and showed me how to get on the plane and go there, essentially, because I knew that place, like so many philosophical leaders developed in India, and it was just their food, their culture, dance, the arts, everything was so pronounced there. I wanted to go there, but I was afraid of all the crazy things you hear about India. And so what this guy told me is, what you do is you pack your bag, maybe you have a plan in mind, and you buy your ticket, and you get on the plane and then you go and then you get off the plane and you're there. So it was like that simple, really. But one of the things I did was I made a list of all the stuff I wanted to do there. So part of what this talk about is like creating your own like mythos so that you can move forward in a space in a direction that you're interested in. And so I made a list of the 10 things I wanted to do in India. Have a show, set up a studio, meet other artists, go to other artist studios, teach classes, put on a group show. And the last thing on my list was I wanted to meet this guy named M.F. Hussain, who is kind of like the Picasso of India, of an eccentric Islamic artist who came from a family of artists. And so this friend of mine had the name of a couple women artists from New Delhi. So I wrote them and I said, this is what I want to do. And a week later, M.F. Hussain's son, who is also an artist, called me and said, why don't you come and live with us? So I got to go live with an artist family there, and he introduced me to the whole art scene there. And at that time, I was not a Buddhist yet. I was doing some Hindu practices at the time, actually. So this is more in reference to that, this painting. So these are the paintings I did right before I went to India. And then I went to India and did all the art stuff on my list and went on a number of pilgrimages, including some to Buddhist sites at the time. On my second trip to India, my friend Stephen, who was the person I was talking about earlier, he said, well, and the Dalai Lama is giving us spring teachings in a month. And I was getting ready to go home. And I just thought, well, I'm kind of an idiot if I don't go do that. So I lengthened my trip and I went to Dharamsala, and that really started my whole Buddhist adventure, the Buddhist phase of my adventure, which has been the last 35 years. So just before I'd done this, I listened to a class on cassette tape that my friend had made of Alex Berzin talking about the 5 aggregates. And the first few words out of his mouth, all of a sudden, I just got this feeling like, oh, this is it. This is the thing I've been looking for. This, wasn't psychedelic drugs. It wasn't Hinduism. It wasn't dressing up. It was like, this is it. And so once I got to the Dalai Lama's spring teachings and all the other people teaching there and all the things that were offered there and just the sacred environment there, I just jumped straight in without really any knowledge of anything besides I want to do it. This is Dharamsala or McLeod Ganj up on the hill where this community was. It looks quite different now. This is the March 10th demonstrations, the Free Tibet demonstrations. I went on some day trips like to Sopema, which is a lake, a holy lake with a history of Padmasambhava there. And that was a really amazing experience. One of the things that happened while I was there was I went out in the full moon and it was a clear sky and it was raining from a clear sky while I was there. And there were 3 of the Nechung oracles were there going in and out of trance with His Holiness. And so, it was like pretty amazing, old school experience. I did this painting at Bodh Gaya, and there was at the Manlam there. So there were thousands and thousands of monks doing Kora around the Bodhi tree. And that was an amazing experience as well. And I just painted this for a while, and all the monks came over and took a look at it. And they're like going, oh, yeah, it was nice. So while I was there, I did a lot of miniature paintings. So these paintings you're seeing now, they're about the size of a postcard. They're like 3.5 by 6 inches. So these are all influenced by that very early, exposure to Buddhism. This one's called Sport of the Mind, which is still really an interesting term to me about how you make things happen through your strengthening your mental processes and your awareness. These were included in a show in the Crocker Art Gallery in the library. They had a show of these pieces. And this one I actually did in a studio in Switzerland. So you can see like the northern influence on the technique. Then a little bit later on, I started really taking a look again at, like, I've treated myself as if I was a bodhisattva and I was going to go out and like fix everything, you know, make things better. And so I just witnessed and participated in so many activities that were like kind of really heartbreaking sort of activities. And I wasn't prepared for it, but I just kept doing it. This was a piece that was done for a shark finning show that was an anti-shark finning show. It's called the Shark Wife. I started using a lot of masks, meat masks, quite a few meat masks. This piece was was based on the experience of the big tsunami in Japan a while back, and so it was my ode to that. So looking at Christian art, looking at, you know, different sources, surrealism, I'm mostly considered that. Well, I was, at this time I was a vegetarian, now I'm a vegan, but I was a vegetarian and I started doing all these meat things that it was like a sacrifice, sort of like sacrificing yourself sort of thing, but also the unfortunate results of some of these is people that were meat eaters would go, man, these paintings make me hungry. I'm just going, oh, yeah, that's not right. And then the last really big influence on my work was the big California fires. And I fell into, before that, I really fell into a long-term like melancholia, you know, like a depressive state where I continued to try to be of benefit and do all this stuff, but my own personal mood was like effed up, man. So I had seen on a trip to Costa Rica, I'd seen this guy who was a finger painter, and I remember just like fondly finger painting. I thought, and all of a sudden I realized I was holding that opinion to my heart that only little kids that can't control their paint do finger painting. And I thought, well, what happens when somebody who can control their paint does finger painting? You know, so I just like went home and did just tons and tons of finger paintings, and then started adding in these like pastiches of oil paintings over the top of birds and insects and things like that, trying to get a sense of another kind of space and like sentient beings in a totally different space than they're used to. These pieces with the crows and the ravens, this one is they're like migrant, the idea of migrants through a strange land, impermanence. So I worked with vanity for a long time, and then I moved to impermanence was the thing I was using kind of as a touchstone in a lot of my work. So this is all finger painting in the background, and just to me, they're just like the weirdest spaces. When I'm working on them, I feel like I'm living in them somehow. And the archetypes I've used like mermaids, courtesans, a lot of queens, and like different types of royalty. Uh, just in the last year, it's been really hard for me to do any painting. I've just started breaking through on making more paintings because I use a process where I collect information and then I find a way to put it out in my work. And so I've collected a lot of information last year, but I'm not sure how I can do it justice, really, like in a two-dimensional, three-dimensional world. So I'm just starting to actually feel like I might be able to explore that in a new way. Because I'm not a Tonka painter, you know. So I have to find some other way. And you can see in these last ones too, they're pretty intense and I'm kind of raw. I'm feeling pretty raw, and I'm not exactly sure how to get past it. And I actually asked a lot of lamas, it's like, what's going on? I've had this, I wake up with dread. I feel a lot of grief and and it's really from looking at just samsara, and going, this is called the migrants. So those are the images I have. And so about a year ago, I thought, I mean, what the thing that pulls me out usually of that type of thing, at least temporarily, is I think, well, how can I be of service? What can I do? I have some skills. What can I do with that? And historically, I've taught I taught for 20 years at a school for adults with developmental disabilities. So there's just tons of people there, not one of them like the next, who had brain injuries, autism, Down syndrome. I mean, just really a wide range of skill sets. And working with them was really great, a supportive environment with other artists. It was predominantly an arts-based center. I also had the opportunity to teach art in prison and in local jail system. And so that was interesting to see how art could save lives in that situation as well, that people were involved in certain mythos. They'd put together gang mythos or, I'm impoverishment mythos or on education mythos, and be able to give them the opportunity to create a new mythos for themselves where the outcomes are positive and that they have control over it and they don't have to buy into some other thing they've been buying into. And actually saw some results with that, which was really cool. And so that's one of the things I did. And so I thought, okay, so how can I be of service to somebody more than I am now and get out of this? And so I have like a modest sized Tibetan Buddhist library that was done before a lot of stuff was translated. I got like kind of an early range of locally published pieces from the Tibetan library in India. And so I thought, well, I could like give some of these away and somebody else can look at them. And so I was calling around, and this was the only center I found that had a lending library. And so I thought, okay, yay. So I got a hold of Jen. She was my first contact here. You guys want some Buddhist books? I guess that happens all the time. But anyway, that was mine. And so I met up with her, and then I was on the mailing list. Well, the first one's free. So I went to to one of the meetings here, and I heard a Geshe talk whose name I don't remember, unfortunately, who was from Sarah J. He was Foundation or something like that. Anyway, and I asked him my question about getting out of I feel dread every morning, and I feel so much grief, and he just thinks about it, and then he gave me an answer, and all of a sudden it's just like it all fell away, and I'm just going, it was that easy in a sense, that hard and that easy. And so I went, well, okay, I know it when I see it. This is a path. I'm going to stay on this particular path right here with all you people. And after that, it seemed like things came alive. I had a lot of amazing experiences when I was in Dharamsala directly in the midst of all of that in that spiritual space. But coming back to this spiritual space, it all was renewed again for me, and I'm very inspired by it. And so I'm extremely happy to have met up with, and the Geshe and the Sangha is like, when I walked in here, it's just like, I don't know anybody, but I just like tried to put my best foot forward, which I didn't need to do really, and have met so many new friends and stuff here, and I can be my crazy self and it's all good, so that's awesome. And so here I am. That's how I got here. Any questions? Yeah, you all have stories. I mean, I've heard many people here talk about their experiences and how they got here. And I just love hearing those stories. And so I'm happy to be able to throw mine in the hat, with everybody else's.
Could you talk a little bit about how your art has influenced your practice? You talked a lot about how your practice has influenced your art, but not the other way around.
Right. Well, one way that my art has influenced my practice is that when you do the kind of meticulous painting style that I use, or somewhat meticulous, and I don't even think it has to be a meticulous painting style. It could be a thoughtful, abstracted style or whatever, that you have to learn to control your mind to get what you want, and it's not that I don't go in with wanting a lot in my paintings. I go in with maybe a word that influences me, or some emotion, or just some event, but I don't know what it's going to look like when I'm done. And so in a sense, when I go in and I do the practice of making the art, I do something that's somewhat similar to the practice of sitting down for meditation. And except I'm using, I have these physical gestures as well, and certain decision making about colors and shading and all of that kind of stuff. But really breaking something down into its parts to be able to put it, throw it up on the canvas and make it look like something that maybe other people will have some relate to it somehow. That has influenced my practice.
Other questions online, just put your hand up if you're online and we'll get to you soon.
Thanks for your talk, Kim. It was really good. So you talked about the different themes that you were working with, throughout your life. And so what's the theme that you're working with now?
Right now I'm working on transmitting some sort of sense of bliss. How do you do that? You have to be there, really. Yeah. But that's not, so what, right? So what? It's hard. That's what I'm going for. And also, just some of the transcendental experiences I've had, really. It's like, how do you, what I'm trying to do really is open the window, that golden window, right? It's the window where you get a glimpse of something, and then maybe you jump out the window and join into that mandala, or you say no thank you or whatever from the first glimpse. So what my paintings are, in a sense, I call them magic windows, or like a golden window, where you set a stage, and then the willing viewer interacts with it and either says no thanks, or they let it take them away someplace, And so I'm the person that is in charge of taking people away someplace, when combined with their willingness and their background and all of that stuff. So I don't know, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story and your artwork. It's just really phenomenal to see that journey. I can relate to it as an artist myself, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how coming here kind of rewrote maybe your whole story in some ways. Like, what was that like?
Right.
Or contextualized it maybe.
Right. Well, the last few years, it started probably just a few years back. I started doing became the family historian, so I was doing genealogy. So the DNA side of me, I started really looking at that, and then at the same time, I ended up finding that file that my mother kept, or finding my grades from the second grade, and I was checking it to see how it compared to my beliefs about myself, So in a sense, coming here did the same thing. It was helped me to check my beliefs about that, and see how it had changed and how it stayed the same, and the kernels, there's those magic, there's I've heard it described in Buddhism as moments. It's you can't say this is going to take you 10 years to get here from here to here. It's there's that moment, and that moment can be boom, 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 bang, 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 or it can be a long moment, or, And so it's where I was looking for. And I'd actually had certain experiences before I walked into this door, but this door renewed my vigor for the last few years of my life. You know, I felt like, oh, it's not just, you know, it was going so slow for so long. And then bang, I'm like, I turned into this incredibly happy person all the time. I like everything. And the Dharma is every single place I look, it's there, you know, and when I hear, you know, I feel like, oh, he's talking to me, you know, and I said, God, I hope everybody else feels like this because it's just like, wow, you know. So, I mean, been preparing for a long time too, with doing a lot of other types of practices and stuff. But it's like I'm from Sacramento. Where was I the last 10 years, you know, feeling bad about the fires or something instead. So anyway, but that's good. You know, I'm still alive and I'm able to do this. It's so good. It's available to everybody. It really is. Yeah.
Hi, Kim. It's a big surprise for me to meet you here. And in fact, my name is Ranga. I retired from teaching art,
Mhm.
and I felt like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do? Make use of myself. So 2 days ago, I looked around Buddhist Temple or something. Because I know passion, compassion, that's Buddhism, that's with it. So I felt like I need to do something with what I know.
Mhm.
And so I looked up online, I found this place, and I show up in the wrong time, like during the meditation time. I have no idea what I expect. I would be, you know, seeing, hearing.
Mhm.
And one thing led to the other. And finally, I found, oh my God, Kim is here. And thank you so much for your wonderful lecture. And although I know Kim seems like for a long time in and out
Mhm.
during the reception time, opening, but we actually didn't really have a lot of time to talk about, but I know Kim's work so well. I love your work. So inspiring. And so after I heard your story, I'm more inspired by you.
Yay.
Yay! So
She's very talented artist. Serious.
I am looking forward to your help.
Oh yeah.
Get me to how can I
I'll give you
serve?
my phone number after.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for this place.
Do you have any other questions or comments? Anyone online? Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. So wonderful to see more of your work.
Thanks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I love that you still have your first finger painting. I don't have anything like
I know.
from, my early
What are the
days, nothing
chances
like
of that?
I know, it's your mother
My
was
mother.
really wonderful to
Mhm.
keep that. I loved how you brought that back to more present day
Mhm.
by using the finger painting. So it's like this timeline, and I really love those pieces with the loose finger
Mhm.
painting background with the intricate work that is more like
Mhm.
the rest of your work.
Mhm.
Those just really hit me hard. I love those with the birds, just
Thanks.
beautiful. So I just want to thank you for your talk and showing your beautiful work. I guess I do have a question. You mentioned there was a Geshe here who said something
Mhm.
that do you
Yeah.
remember what that was that he said? Because I need
Yes, I
some-
do. Shall I ever forget it? No, I hope not. He said, it sounds like renunciation is near. That's what he said. And I had to go home and open Google and look it up. And went, yeah, I think he's right. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. I'm Zach. I'm really intrigued. I have a friend who just released a book and they're a creative force here in Sacramento, and just thinking of all the different artists we have around. Do you have this feeling that when you have to express yourself, you have a backup? Right? Like if you can't paint,
Oh.
what else do you do?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's always the garden and there's friendship. I birdwatch. So I'm out in nature with my camera. I had this one experience where I was working at the Short Center, which is the adult disabilities program. And I'm taking this big pile of people out for a walk, and we cross over this street, and a bluebird goes flying across, and it like slows down, and like, that thing that happens where it slows down. It's almost like it stops in front of you, and you can like see all the details, and then it goes on. I just went, oh my God, that's a bluebird of happiness. I thought, well, if there's one here, I bet there's more here. I want to see more of them. And so I just looked up the Audubon Society. I don't know. And they were doing, I found something that said bluebirds may be present. And I'm just going, yay. So I went to that, and then I fell down the rabbit hole of bird watching. And so now I'm crawling all over the place looking for birds. And I find that bird watching is similar to painting, because you use that hunting sense where you narrow down your field of vision to one thing and you focus on that. So you're like, when you're hunting or tracking, it's like that with bird watching too, is you're looking for anything that's moving and then you focus in on it. And my eyesight is not that good, so I use a zoom camera basically to observe. And then I had to learn how to use a camera at the same time so I could document. It's like take it home and get out the book. And what the heck is that? So bird watching is a big one. Yeah, just going out and sitting, meditation. Yeah.
This is sort of a selfish question. Pretend you have a child in front of you that just turned 8, and you have a background of anything artistic being squashed. Now you have to try to open that third eye in that child, and you've got nothing in front of you.
Yeah.
What would you do? Where would you start?
Make supplies available. And if you don't feel comfortable, get some books with pictures and go through the pictures and say, what do you think about this? What's your favorite thing? And a lot of art, for me, my process is I think about what am I attracted to? And so when I started, when I actually said, I originally was going to be a marine biologist, and then I realized I could be a half-assed marine biologist, or I could maybe be a good artist and have my heart in it, So that was a big deal. And so for me, I would make a list. I like red. I like, it could be anything you like. And then you pick a few of those out and you start working with them, as your message, so that you have a message in your work. I mean, not everybody, some people, the message is the material, but for me, I had to have something more narrative. That was what appealed to me. And so I just made a list, say, so what do you think? What do you really like? What do you like? And she's like, I don't know. Or, I don't know if she's that type, but what do you like in the garden? What do you like at school? What do you like to read? What do you like to eat? Just open things up a little bit with the conversation, and then have the supplies ready and say, why don't you show me that? And if there's a sense of, I can't do that, it's like, well, I won't tell anybody. Go ahead, just go ahead and do it, because it all takes practice. But if you have some sort of love of what you're trying to say, then it makes the practice easier. Something like that, Yeah. And you could do it with her too. Since you have a squash down thing, you can go, F that squashing. I'm going to do something anyway. And in fact, I've offered some people here to give them a drawing lesson or whatever they want, That's one of the things I have to offer. I'd be happy to offer it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Hi. Kim has offered to put together a class at some point. Is that okay to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk more about that. And I think that'd be really fantastic. So
We could do it together.
okay. We did really amazing things here with artists. Lots of times I think I'm not really that interested in Buddhism. I'm just interested in Buddhism as a delivery system for what I call the salon of interesting artists and conversationalists. And the salon is also like social workers and healers.
Yeah.
So
Great.
The only thing we're kind of missing here, but maybe in the I'd love to have a hot tub and spa. So we have, and my massage therapist here, spa my vision. If Holly is still listening, is Holly still listening? Yeah. So the impact of art as I want to share. Like, most interested what the teachers share from their side, that they're kind of amazed about. A couple of teachers that I said, including Jada Rinpoche, said, and Khensa Rinpoche, Losang Gyatso, it's like, wow, your recovery program is incredible, incredible. Keep doing it. Don't get, like that. Khensa Rinpoche's not one to throw out compliments, but like he just came in, come down the hall, and he just stopped in front of the blanket, the mural, what am I looking? What's the word? Quilt, yeah, quilt. The Lojong quilt. So I want you to know that Holly was just like, for a second, his kind of like normal kind of little demeanor changed. Oh my goodness. And so did Geshe Kunshin, so like, that is so cool. So, the way we present Dharma here is very unique. I know there's not another Lojong quilt anywhere on the planet, which is good. So, so I continue to want to present Dharma in unique ways that were particularly needed, presenting our chaplaincy and our healing and our study programs. So some of us are going to hang around if there's enough food for lunch, right? We don't know. Nothing. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. And is that can you say something? Is that like?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I was just going to say that in Buddhism, there's the 5 sciences, which supposedly is taught to all monks. And sometimes first on the list is art. And I found something that I think might be the source of that. And it's in Indian noble families. The sons had to, at least the first 5 sons had to go out in the world and accumulate knowledge from the 5 sciences, including the arts. And there's, I actually wrote down the name of it. There's a sutra called the Lalitla Vistara Sutra, which is about the life of Gautama Buddha between his descent from Tashita to sermon at the Deer Park, and includes him learning the arts. So I heard a lot of sort of diss stuff about, oh, it's like self-centered and all, it's like bad for you. And then when I started really looking, I started reading, like, well, I'm going through the Lam Rim and I'm like marking all the pages that talk about art, and there's quite a few actually. So it's good, you know, as long as you're keeping your mind virtuous, like we are trying to do, it's all good.
Art saves lives.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's do closing.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may he quickly attain a state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish. May the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losandrapa, I make request at your holy feet. Do we have announcements? Oh, so refuge, we're gonna have a refuge and entering the path? Okay, refuge and entering the path on June 8th, which is Sunday. And I haven't confirmed this, but Geshe Damsho is also offered to give the 8 Mahayana precepts, so that would be early in the morning on that day. So if you're interested in refuge or entering the path, please see Hattie or Lama. This week on Friday is expressions, and throughout the week we have plenty of meditation groups to come to, so please check our calendar. And also there's a donation box in the back. There's a clear acrylic one in the dojo, and in the library, there's a little hut that you can put money into. We always appreciate your donations. It helps us keep our sound system going and the air conditioning on, and all of us with toilet paper, quite honestly. So the important things, you can put some dollars in the box, and we'll go ahead and put those towards the things that we need to be able to keep coming. Anything else? All right. Well, it's fun to give, and it's how we build positive spiritual potentials. So it's not it online if you go to lionswardharmacenter.org/donate. Thanks.
Omo araya pacayana indi Om araya pacana indi Omo